If you'd like to make your NFL games a little more interesting, you've come to the right place. It's the Even Money Podcast with Ross Tucker and Steve Fezzik.
Yeah, Vegas, baby, Vegas. It is the Even Money Podcast, ranked everywhere as one of the top 10 best betting podcasts in the United States, which is awesome. I am merely the host, Ross Tucker, a former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years, classic journeyman. Check me out on social media, please, at Ross Tucker NFL, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Wherever you're at, I am there. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. So you can check out, like today, Greg Cosell was awesome on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Andrew Brandt was amazing yesterday, going over the Broncos franchise value and the Rams contracts and the latest with Deshaun Watson, which is just one of the things we need to address in a little bit with my guy, Steve Fezzik, the only 2-time winner of the Super Contest at the Westgate at Fezzik Sports. We are joined today once again. Seems like he joins us maybe every 4 months, at least during golf stuff, when there's golf stuff coming on. Although he's the NFL guy for CBS Sports. So we love him as the NFL guy too. I love Will because Will's a golf guy. He's a tennis guy. He's a beer guy. He's a football guy. And he's at Will Brinson on social media. What's up, Will?
Yeah, I do like golf, beer, tennis, and football. I'm a very unique middle-aged adult male in America who has a passion for golf, beer, and football, unlike so many others. I'm a little beer-loving snowflake out here. What's up?
All right, so I've got a bunch of questions.
Okay.
I don't follow golf that closely. It's U.S. Open week. I know that's a big week, but I want to kind of take a step back. I know what Steve looks for, Will. Steve looks for opportunity. Steve looks for opportunities to pounce. All I've heard the last 2 weeks is about this LIV Golf Tour that got Mickelson and Dustin Johnson and DeChambeau and Patrick Reed and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So before we get into what it means for the U.S. Open, can you give us like the Cliff Notes version of the LIV Tour? Because all my follow-up questions about how to bet the U.S. Open and how to bet LIV Tour kind of stem from what you're going to say about what we know about the LIV Tour and these guys that are going over there.
Okay, I'm going to try and do it. I'm going to try to do something that I stink at, which is do this efficiently and quickly and describe the LIV Tour. But basically, a bunch of the LIV Tour is run by Greg Norman, the Shark. 20 career wins, one less than Rory McIlroy, as you may have heard after last week's win. It is financially backed by Saudi money, and that's what has everybody up in a tizzy about it. In addition to the fact that there's no cut, it's only 54 holes. It's a shotgun start, so it's basically like your typical. Like you go out and you're playing in a regular random tournament at your local course. Everybody starts on the same. Everybody starts at the same time. And like the way the scoreboard looks out, it's like 3 holes to go, right? Then for the final round, I believe that they actually pair up and play it sort of more normal. And everybody, there's no cut, so everybody gets paid. And basically a large contingent of PGA players who will tell you for various reasons why they went, but the real reason they all just went for money. There's so much money over there. Phil Mickelson made $200 million as a signing bonus to go on the LIV Tour. That is the combined career PGA Tour earnings. It's more than the combined PGA career earnings of Tiger Woods and Dustin Johnson combined. Like Phil Mickelson made that in one stroke. So it's like, this is complete. This is not apples and oranges. This is like limes and a rolled up wad of $100 bills. Like that's what you're comparing fruit wise when you start talking about the finances behind these. And that's sort of, I guess, the shorter version.
What if I told you, Ross, that the World Series of Poker main event, everyone knows that's where you can win the most money ever. All right. What if I told you you could not only enter in the World Series of Poker main event, have your entry fee comped Oh, and by the way, we're just going to go ahead and guarantee that you're going to make the final 48 of the 6,600 players. Everyone's going to start with an equal stack. You're in the money, final 48. The 48th place guy makes about 120,000. The first place guy makes like 6 million plus. But guess what? Not only do you get to do that, which would be the chance of a lifetime, obviously, you get to do that each and every week, because the numbers I just spoke about, yeah, those are what the World Series of Poker main event pays. That's also what the LIV Tour pays at every single tournament.
Charles Schwartzel made, and I'm just getting this from a tweet. So he won, right? He made $4.75 million for winning. That is 3 times as much money as he made for winning the 2011 Masters. Like Charles Schwartzel, one of the most random Masters winners of all time, made 3 times the purse from 2011 last weekend at this like Jabroni LIV opening tour event.
Okay. So I purposely
do you see how we're surrounded by money? Like that?
Yes, but I purposely don't follow current events that closely, or like world news or politics. Why is everybody so up in arm about this?
Oh boy. You want to take this one, Steve?
Because Saudi Arabia has this long history of like human rights violations. They're like the enemies. We're still blaming them for 9/11, and I'm not sure we're wrong. And yet all these people are selling their souls out to work with this organization. Anyone that follows professional wrestling knows that like the Ayatollah is the enemy, right? Who saw the movie The Wrestler. And yet people are saying money is king. How big a yacht are you going to water ski behind, Gordon Gekko? All these golfers are showing their true colors. Big Fatso DeChambeau. Hey, I'm going to make my 5 million instead of my 1 million. I'm going and working with the Arabs.
I mean, and look, I really don't want to get in trouble at any point for talking about it. You know what? I care, but like, here's the thing. Like, I'm pretty sure that like Joe Biden, the president of the United States of America, is going to visit Saudi Arabia the next 2 weeks. Like, I know I read that somewhere. Like, I get it that they have a long history of problematic stuff, but at the same time, like, I do think that maybe the commentary. Like Phil Mickelson did his press conference yesterday, and Golf Channel eviscerated him for like 20 minutes. Like, oh, the soul of golf is up for grabs. But it's like, it's gotten a little heavy-handed and a little over the top. Yes, these guys are selling out for money. That's the bottom line. But like, I feel pretty confident that if you went to the Golf Channel analyst and said, hey, you can make $4 million this year for covering the LIV Tour. Like, I don't know, a pretty big percentage of them are going to go. And it's got interesting. So at the U.S. Open practice round, somebody, I didn't see the full video of this, but apparently Jordan Spieth went up to, I guess, Rory and was like, hey, man, congrats, like big win. It's cool. And Kevin Na and somebody else were right there. And Kevin Na threw a head, like a head bob to Spieth, and Spieth just spun on his heels and walked away. So there's like an actual like divisive factions building between the players who left for LIV and the players who are on the PGA Tour for fairly obvious reasons. Like they feel like these guys sold out and are helping take down the PGA Tour, which, these younger guys all back the tour. It's mostly like older, Phil. Yeah, Phil is in a weird spot. I mean, he went full like Hogan and grew out the beard. Like he's in a bizarre place. But like they're just it's clearly like a certain type of player, like DeChambeau. Like we knew he was going to sell out. Patrick Reed, we knew he was going to sell out. It's a very clear type of player who left for the LIV Tour, and it'll be very interesting this week to see how they perform under the microscope of a USGA major on American soil, having left for the LIV Tour 1 week earlier.
I have a million questions.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on.
So Steve, are you intimating that you wouldn't do it?
Not at all, because the bottom line is there's plenty of human rights violations and problems we have in our own country. So to say that we're perfect and everybody else isn't, I can't even play I can't even gamble in Texas. I mean, come on. We're correct me if I'm wrong. We escape England, the Puritans, because of their like onerous rules regarding things, and yet we become, what we were fleeing from. And England, on any 7-Eleven, we can bet on anything we want.
But wait, hold on. Doesn't the NBA make like millions of dollars from China? And doesn't China have a lot of human rights violations?
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Bottom line is there's human rights violations going on everywhere. Where have you been if you're not paying attention? So of course I would go over to the LIV and I'd play golf, and I just justify it by taking 10% of my check and finding personally, I wouldn't just give it to some random charity. I'd find it some really hardworking single parents out there that have special needs children, and I just donate it directly to them rather than give it to some administrator that gets to decide who's deserving. So I'd find a way to make that charity money work, and I'd feel good and sleep well at night.
Okay, so that leads me to this. How do we capitalize on this? Do we do matchups and we bet on DeChambeau and Reed to miss the cut or to be terrible? Steve, I know you always talk about matchups, right? So, go ahead. Sorry.
No, there's no cut.
There's no cut in the LIV tours.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the U.S. Open now.
I think you nailed it.
Sorry.
I think in the matchups with all this distractions, and NFL betting 101, the distracted team is not the team we want to bet on. So I would think that if you randomly just bet against every LIV Tour dude that's playing in the U.S. Open in their matchups, and you bet each and every one, I think you turn a small profit. Now, you want to listen to Will to tell you which specific ones you want to bet against so you can turn a small profit into a larger profit. Go ahead, Will. Who are we betting against?
Bryson. All right, so what's crazy about this U.S. Open, and I try to do this well, and I actually think.
By the way, Will, do you agree with what Steve just said? Essentially betting. Steve never likes the needle in the haystack. He likes matchups. So do you agree with basically betting against all the LIV guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you want to blindly bet against every single LIV guy because there are different circumstances surrounding each one of them. Like Brooks Koepka, for instance, has been reported that he's going to go, but we haven't actually seen him go. And he's been tweeting weird stuff, but he also got married 2 weeks ago. So like, you got a whole lot going on in that headspace. Like Brooks is like 50-1, 45-1 to win the US Open, which is crazy. That's at least intriguing except for the marriage and the LIV thing. Like that's just too much peripheral stuff. But yeah, I think that Steve in general, yes, is correct that you would want to target these LIV guys because it is just like the old NFL or college football axiom. It's like, if this team is distracted, if this team has a lot going on, like I know that personally when I'm in a good space, like in my personal life, I play golf at a much better level. Like if I don't have anything in between my ears, I am a substantially better golfer than I am when like I got something going on, at home or at work or whatever it is, And so I do think that matters. I mean, these guys are professionals. They can tune it out. But at the same time, like that's going to impact your preparation. Phil Mickelson didn't get asked, how's your game, Phil? He got asked 30 questions about the LIV Tour, and then he got eviscerated on Golf Channel for 2 hours afterwards. So like it's impossible to avoid. So yes, in that sense, I think that fading these LIV guys is probably generally a good approach. I would assume that there's some of that baked into the prices as well, though.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Steve. If you're saying that and Will's saying that, don't you think the people setting the lines have already sort of accounted for that?
No, because the people setting the lines are not very good at what they do for a living, bottom line. And further, they're all grounded. Even some of the bettors are just grounded in all this analytics, and they have their power rating on DeChambeau and Mickelson and other guys, and they're going to go with the power ratings to set their initial numbers because it's so nebulous in terms of what adjustments should be made.
What about taking that the LIV guys aside for a second, Will? Is there anything else U.S. Open betting related that you feel strongly about? Because I want to get into the LIV Tour then in a second, but I'm just curious, anything else U.S. Open related that you feel strongly about or a guy you really like?
This is really interesting. So I'm just looking at DraftKings since they're the sponsor of your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you
you're
for
welcome.
doing that.
You can find Dustin Johnson at like 40-1 in some spots. And I know he's a live guy too, but like he's still DJ. Like DJ can turn it on in a heartbeat and just win the US Open because he's Dustin Johnson. He hasn't been playing that great of golf but if you look at it, it's different at DraftKings. He's 28-1 at DraftKings, which that's a little low for what I would want. But in some spots, he's actually a longer odds than guys like Matthew Fitzpatrick, Sam Burns, Will Zalatoris. Oh my God, Colin Morikawa is 30-1 on DraftKings. Like that's an automatic bet. I mean, that's Colin Morikawa should never be 30-1 at any golf tournament. He is the best iron player in the world. He hits the ball straight off the tee. Now, chipping in this Brookline, like short game is going to be a problem. The rough is going to be a problem. There's a video of Ted Scott, who's Scotty Scheffler's caddy, and he went out on, I want to say it was number 9, but I could be wrong. And basically went out to the fairway, and he's like, here's a possible landing spot for your ball off the tee. And he dropped it, and he's like, if you hit it right here, like if you go full driver, it's going to land right here, and it rolls down the hill and into the rough. And he's like, now watch this. And he walks up a yard or like a yard and a half, and he drops the ball, and it runs down this hill, screams through the rough, and goes into the water. And like this is like a tee shot that hits the fairway. This is going to be a diabolical, difficult course. And you're going to want guys who can scramble a little bit. That's my one concern with Morikawa, that his short game can fail him at times, and he's not necessarily an elite putter. I think a guy like Joachim Neiman makes a lot of sense. 40-1 is a really good price. Max Homa at 45-1 is a pretty good look as well on DraftKings. And then I'm trying to see if there's anybody else down. I mean, man, DeChambeau is 80-1. That's kind of insane. But I mean, I hate him. I don't want to bet him. I mean, I think that's sort of the range that I'm probably targeting for this tournament. Obviously, Rahm can win. 12-1 is just too short. But I want guys like in the 25-40 range, I think, for this particular tournament. And I want guys who are straight off the tee, great iron players, guys who have performed at an elite level on the highest stage, because this is going to be a real test of your like willpower and your ability to focus and to play a high level of golf, and guys who can scramble a little bit, have enough of a short game where if they get into trouble, the rough isn't going to kill them.
You know what you need to do, Will? You need some bold button downs from Express.
Right.
You need to find statement shirts in bright colors, prints that pop, and lightweight fabrics, or some polos. Kick it old school with vintage inspired polos made for modeling. I just did both these. I just ordered both these from Express. I got a button down short sleeve. I got a polo. You know why? Because when I like to go out at the beach, I like to have new shirts that I like. Find something for every destination at Express, online or in store. My go-to destination for summer style. All right, let's get to the LIV Tour now. With these rules, what is the way to bet LIV Tour? I mean, how many events even are there? They don't have them when there's a major, right?
No, Well, so part of the thing they want too is they want their guys. So, I mean,
they want their guys to play in majors and do well.
I mean, people are like, oh, this publicity is so bad. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, this is all anybody's talking about is the LIV Tour, and then they're going straight to a major, and all the guys are going to be playing in it. There were some rumors. I don't think the Masters actually banned anybody. There were some rumors Augusta might do that, and then maybe the R&A could follow suit. But the important thing about the majors as it relates to the PGA Tour and the LIV Tour is that none of the majors are run by the PGA Tour. You know, the Augusta is run by, or the Masters is run by Augusta. The British Open is run by the
PGA Tour's got no juice, man.
Well, I mean, they can ban them from PGA Tour events like Jay Moynihan can, but they can't ban them from any of the majors unless the governor, it's the USGA, the PGA of America, which is not the same as the PGA Tour, the R&A, and then Augusta. So like those groups have to step up and ban the LIV guys. There's been some discussion that could happen. The R&A is not happy about it. Augusta's not happy about it. But like, would they really go so far as to ban a guy like Phil Mickelson, who's won multiple green jackets? And I guess Patrick Reed would be like not that big a deal to ban because he's whatever. But I mean, like, are they really going to take like they're going to ban Dustin Johnson from Augusta? Like that would be crazy. So yes, the LIV will not have events on major weekends. I wouldn't think.
Okay, so but with the 54 holes, no cut, shotgun, what does it mean? Like what? I don't know, Steve. Steve, have you talked to your golf guys? Is there a certain way to bet these events because of the rule?
I tell you what, I hate the shotgun start because my guys love weather changes over the course of a day, and there's certain days where the wind's going to blow. The conditions are much worse in the afternoon. If you can get a matchup with an afternoon guy against a morning guy, you're going to kick butt with that information. Well, you can throw that in the garbage can now if everybody's playing at exactly the same time. So there's one advantage card that's taken away from pros that like to focus on weather differences, course differences, different times of the day.
Yeah, it's a huge. I mean, like you think about the PGA Championship, right? Cameron Smith won. There was, I believe it was like the final tally was like whatever wave that it was either the AM/PM or the PM/AM. I can't remember which one it was, but the wave that got an advantage had a 1.5 stroke advantage over the other wave, which is just like an obscene amount of like disparity between those two. And as Steve points out, with the LIV, you're not going to get that because everyone is going off at the same time. All the weather is the same. You can't target maybe a discrepancy with the odds on a particular matchup in that spot.
Two other questions for you guys, because I do want to get to one NFL, one NBA. NBA Finals, Warriors are up 3-2. Game 6 is whatever day. In, what is it, Thursday maybe?
Yes.
Probably Thursday. They drag them out. It's unbelievable. But do you have any bet on that, Steve? Any thought on Warriors Celtics Game 6?
I would lean to Celtics, but when did home court advantage become worth 4 points in the NBA? That's how it's being priced every game. The home team's laying 4. So there's a big tax on Boston. I'll probably play Boston first half. I lost with Boston first half Game 5. But Golden State, it didn't happen. I got every Game 5 bet wrong, every single bet. But the bottom line is Golden State's great in the third quarter. So if you're going to bet Golden State, look for a way to get at them in the third quarter. If you bet Boston, look to avoid the third quarter. And that means probably look at Boston in the first half in that game. Almost a knee-jerk for me. Game 6s and Game 7s, I play under. Open 211, I played under the 211 in Game 6.
Any thoughts, Will?
I mean, I just want my Celtics future, my 28-1 Celtics future to cash. And it looked like it was great, and now it looks like it's dead. But that's probably me being reactionary.
When did you get in on that?
I don't know the exact date, but a couple months ago. I had 13-1 to win the East. I mean, like I'm up net on it. Although I've lost the Celtics the last 2 games, unfortunately. I mean, I think they'll find a way to get it to Game 7, but man, I mean,
hold on a second.
F is just,
you had them 13-1 to win the East, 22-1 or 28-1 or 22-1.
I think 28-1, could be 23-1.
28-1. Steve, shouldn't he be betting the Warriors the last 2 games?
Probably, yeah.
It depends. It depends who he likes. Game 6 and Game 7 depends how much he bet. So this goes back to our hedging question. We don't like to hedge. It sounds like Will still likes Boston. So think about this. He thinks, a gun to his head, if he hadn't made a bet, he'd be betting Boston. And now he has to bet Golden State. So that's a negative EV bet. Ooh, yes. We don't like those. So given that's the case, I think psychologically, it's rarely wrong when you have a bet at a 28-1. And I'm sure it's 28-1 because Will would never play 22-1 because 13-1 would have been odd.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, it's definitely 13. I know it was 13, so it's got to be 28.
And he bet it back in February when Boston turned the corner after they stunk, the first half of the year, and clearly were starting to kick on all cylinders, and their point differential was great, but their overall record wasn't. So the bottom line is, let's say Will had $1,000 at 22-1. I personally, the math wouldn't support it, but I'd say, you know what? We're going to come out of this with the profit. We're going to bet enough on stupid Golden State plus the points Game 6 and then Game 7 so that we get at least make a few dollars and we can go out to the chart house and celebrate a small win because the ticket is just so darn good. You hate to bagel with it and wind up losing on it.
It does stink to We always called it so like the opposite of hedging. We called it a Joey T because we had our boy in college, Joey T, obviously, bet on Cuse to win the national championship. And when they got to the finals with Melo against Carolina, we're like, bro, like, you gonna hedge this? He's like, no, I'm betting more on Syracuse. We're like, okay. And so we call it's just a double down, but we call it a Joey T. I erroneously tried to Joey T the Celtics last night.
That's what Stu Unger used to do. He'd get to the finals of a poker tournament, all right, and his opponent would say, "Hey, you want to chop this?" And Stu Unger, they're playing for $1 million, and Stewie would say, "How about we double it? And we play for another $1 million."
God, it's ratchet up the pressure on the other guy.
Exactly right. Hey, real quick on these, I hate the needle and haystack bets, but if you're going to make them right now at Circa at the U.S. Open, Jeff Benson just tweeted. Their hold is only 18%. A lot of books hold 36%.
Wow.
So literally, you're going to get some payouts that are almost double as good at Circa as you will at other books. So look, your first stop shopping place is to go to Circa to look to bet on guys like Colin and anyone else.
Morikawa. Yeah. So, okay, my last question for you guys. I'm at DraftKings Sportsbook right now because I was going to say to you guys, the more information that comes out about Deshaun Watson, the more it sounds like the suspension is going to be more, or maybe doesn't play at all this year. DraftKings does not have a win total up for the Browns. Do other books, or is he off the board everywhere, Steve?
Circa has it at 9, slight shade to the under. Alternative total under 8 plus $2 plus 200. That's worth the look. A derivative bet that I'd recommend right now. I don't really like the Bengals. I don't like the Steelers. The Browns are in shambles right now, and Baltimore should have a bounce back. Baltimore at 2-1 to win the division.
Yes.
There's a best bet for you that I think has solid value.
So the Ravens, I agree 100% of the Ravens. So the 49ers, you guys know about adjusted games lost with Football Outsiders. Basically, it's like it calculates how many games lost for injury, right? So the 49ers were the most of any team in 2020, including COVID games from 2020, the 49ers lost 165-ish adjusted games lost in the 2020 season, right? That led the NFL. It was like 30 games clear of the next closest team. In 2021, the Ravens were at 190. Like the Ravens were absolutely obliterated by injury last year. That there is a regression to the mean when it comes to those injuries in football. It's just random luck. Typically speak with teams that aren't Washington or the Chargers, there's going to be some regression to the mean. Like seriously, those are the only two teams that just always stay hurt. I mean, I wonder what it could be. It's probably not the training staffs. Anyway, Baltimore, great bounce back spot. I think Watson's going to get 8 games minimum, and I agree with Steve completely. 2-1 is just a misprice. They should be favored to win the division.
Absolutely love it. Terrific job by Will Brinson. Always check him out at Will Brinson on social media. Check Steve out at Fezzik Sports. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. Other than that, good luck, everybody. Hope you guys win some money.
Thanks for listening to the Even Money Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, The Fantasy Feast, Business of Sports, and the College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.